Good morning and good afternoon, folks. I just want to pass along a few things that I've learned lately since I've made a video. First things first, I want to thank you all, you new subscribers. I really appreciate the support and y'all's input. Big shout out to Supreme Decisions too. That guy's got a great channel. You can check him out. He's helped me out a lot. Same with Junkyard, Tulare County. Just really fast. This just establishes, these are case laws that establish law that states you have your rights, and how you have your rights can't just be violated by law enforcement officials. You have to hold them accountable. I'm not anti-police officer, anti-cop. I just want them to be accountable for the laws that they are enforcing. They put us in jail. They need to be accountable for those same laws. And the really one that struck me really hardcore was it's U.S. v. Cortez. Okay, and it says a law enforcement official must articulate particularized and objective basis for suspecting the particular person stopped of criminal activity, like injured a person, damage their property. So if they're stopping you, just stopping locomotion, they have to tell you why. They have to be very specific on the crime that you're being quote unquote investigated for or being detained for. They're stopping your locomotion. They have to do that. It's just not, there's no, like I said, there's no ambiguity in law. Either they do it or they're violating their fiduciary duty because they are amenable to the public and they are benefactors for public trust. So if they violate that, then they are violating that trust agreement. And so the Constitution, not to get long-winded, but the Constitution is a trust document. And they swear by oath or affirmation to uphold the Constitution, and they do that voluntarily. So therefore, since they're benefactors of a public trust, if they violate that trust, then they're no longer being fiduciary to that trust. So, and their fiduciary duties to us, because they're executors of a trust fund. And so once they violate our rights, our rights for sure, then they are no longer agents of the government because they have broken that trust. So that trust agreement with their oath affirmation makes their immunity, from to find out, null and void because they're not qualified anymore. And one more real fast. It's McNeely versus U.S. 483, U.S. 350. It says a public official is a fiduciary towards the public, and if he or she deliberately conceals material information from the public, that public official is guilty of fraud. So that's talking about giving you the articulable crime that you've been quote unquote committed. Like I said, crime is damage to property or injury to a person, so there has to be a complaint, and that's why TIFR tickets are unconstitutional. First of all, it's a Separation of Powers Act. An executive officer doing a judicial duty. And then one more, the Terry v. Ohio. I wasn't sure, like the whole Terry stop thing, I wasn't 100% sure the definition of it and what exactly it meant until this morning, looking it up. Then once again, shout out to Supreme Decisions. Is that police may briefly, it says this, okay, Terry v. Ohio 392 U.S. 1. Police may briefly detain as far down, and pat down a suspect on the street based only on a reasonable suspicion the subject was armed and committed or had committed a crime. The law enforcement official must be able to point to the dangerous area, and it must be based on specific and articulable facts. So if they're saying, hey, listen, in Frisco, they pulled me over, the guy says possibility of weapons, and I asked him what weapon, and he didn't answer me, and he went hands-on. Well, as soon as he went hands-on, he was violating his fiduciary duty or his duties because they didn't have to do an investigation. They just went hands-on right away, and they didn't do the procedure, which is also a violation of due process. So the second that he went hands-on, came up and asked me a question, giving me an authoritative stop, he ceased being a police officer. So any kind of resisting arrest, which is trying to run or trying to hurt him, period. If those don't happen, then they're no longer agents of the government. So everything else after that is null and void, and it doesn't. They're just a regular citizen. And one more that I've learned, actually a few of them. This Orozco versus Texas. It says this is important. Orozco v. Texas 394 U.S. 324. If not handled properly, a detention could become an arrest, which, if not supported by probable cause, would be illegal. So it makes the arrest illegal, and if there's no probable cause of a crime, they must have probable cause. It goes reasonable suspicion, probable cause of a crime. So there has to be an injured party, there has to be damage to property. They can't just come in and take your liberty from you without a articulable reason. And then also one more thing here real fast. This is a good one too. A retaliatory arrest. So my first thought was that it's like, hey, I got a ticket, they're mad at the retaliatory. No, it's a First Amendment issue, and so it's a retaliatory arrest. It's protected by the First Amendment. It's a First Amendment violation, which we all know is federal law for the Supremacy Clause and the Incorporation Doctrine. And so it's Nieves v. Bartlett, 17 through 1174, 587 U.S. 2019. Okay, it says probable cause should generally defeat a retaliatory arrest claim brought under the First Amendment, unless officers under circumstances would typically exercise their discretion not to make an arrest. All right, so that means, in my interpretation anyway, is that they can't just come hands-on with you without articulating something or telling you why, that you have to like the nature of your crime and who's the accuser and what evidence they have. Just like they do for these police officers that are in these police brutality cases, they're doing this investigation, and for 3 or 4 days before they don't just arrest them right away like they do us, without due process. And I believe that for both sides. Anybody. As much as Black Lives Matters, they have enough, they can say what they want. Well, so does the Ku Klux Klan. I mean, I honestly believe in that. Their civil rights are undeniable, and they're God-given. They're God-given rights. So state can't give them to you. State can't take them away. And one more thing I learned from this Denton County, the judge was trying to say that I couldn't contact any law enforcement official whatsoever for any reason, which is a complete. She's acting outside the scope of her authority, and she immediately loses her qualified immunity as well, because judges under, I think it's 34, it's it's one of these codes I just found. Anyway, they must give you equal access to justice, and they have to uphold the Constitution. And so if you are exercising your rights, and they don't, bust you for it or get in trouble, like to say you're saying, hey, listen, I need to be able to call a police officer. They're denying me equal access to justice. And so for the Article 3 in the Constitution, protection of individual rights, Article 1, Section 9 prohibits ex post facto laws. That means they punish you for conduct that wasn't illegal at the time it was performed. So meaning, hey, if I want to talk to a police officer, I have that right guaranteed by the Equal Protection Clause. And if that right is denied, and I'm punished for it, that's the ex post facto law. And then also another one is Article 1, Section 10 is the Bills of Attainder. That singles out individuals or groups for punishment. Like, hey, Charles, you cannot talk to any law enforcement. That's singling me out for a punishment for something that's not illegal. That for me trying to assessing my rights, exercising my rights, is not illegal. And your constitutional rights cannot be criminalized. That's NAACP v. Brown or versus Alabama, and also Brown v. Texas. So those are these things you have to know. You have to be able to quote these, and you're not quoting, but you have to be able to establish them. You have to say, listen, this is why what you're doing to me is wrong, and I'm establishing the fact that this is what I'm doing, and that's why in this video, when those cops try to jam me with my kids, which is ridiculous, my children. That's why I quote that law. Hey, under United States Code 18241, if you violate my civil rights under the code of law, it's a federal crime. I'm letting you know that I know that, and I have no intent or any ill will. You have to establish that fact, so you have to get them to know what your intents are, and so it squashes any the BS. Okay, and so that's one of the things that I just wanted to pass on to you guys. Like I said, once again, thank you for the subs and for all the support and such, and anything I can do for you, just let me know. You guys have a blessed day. Bye.